First of all, congratulations on the big achievement, EB1A.
So it was not something which I did it.
How did your Indian experience, right? Like even your experience or exposure in the fintech world,
Whatever work I've done in India actually played a pivotal role for preparing the application and my profile.
should you move to the US or move abroad or go for higher studies after a bit of experience?
In the current market situation, the job market situation, I feel that the companies are also looking at people who are a little experienced.
First conversations that we had, and you are literally like, why am I not seeing every Indian doing this?
Yeah, like anybody would have like certain amount of doubts. I did have like, is it worth doing? Because it is not very popular route. So that is the reason I felt like, why is not everybody doing it?
Hey, Ritamra, thank you so much for joining the Smart Immigrant Podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, congratulations on the big achievement, EB1A. That is one of the major achievements that any immigrant can have, speeding up their green card journey.
Thank
Now,
you.
particularly about your case, right? Like what really was very worth noting is that you are a relatively recent graduate. You don't have like you have seen people get the EB1A with so many years of experience and stuff. You don't necessarily have all that in the context of the work that you have done in the US, right? So that's one of the key things I wanted to note from a standpoint of how your case is special compared to most other people. But let's just pivot a little bit. Mainly, so far, when we get so engrossed with our clients, working with them, we mostly look at the professional side, the career side, the work side. But tell me a little bit about you, right? So where are you from? What has been your journey so far? What made you even choose the US? What did you do back in India? Just walk us through that.
Okay. So I am from eastern part of India. I'm from Jharkhand, and I did my undergrad in computer science engineering. And immediately after that, I started working in Bangalore in Accenture, and as software engineer. And that was something I thought I would be doing forever, because once you get into the job, that's how you start. And and couple of switches as well I've made. So from there, I moved into banking domain. I worked for Bank of Tokyo. I worked for Intellect Design. So I worked for, and that's how my, I would say, major chunk of my work is focused on the banking and finance domain. And so I've worked a lot in India. And later on, I decided maybe then I can try and pursue my career and formally educate myself in the field of data science. And that's how I decided to. Then I started looking at the courses like available in India and outside. And then eventually I picked up a course here in US in Rochester, New York. And that's how I came here in the year 2021. Yeah.
A couple of things are really interesting here. One is you made the switch after working for a while, maybe in the CS area,
Yes.
right? Like the software
Yes.
engineering area.
Yeah.
You made the switch into the data science area. That's one part.
Yeah.
What interested you? Why did you make that switch?
So it was not something which I did it. It was the need of the project, and then they required somebody who could oversee the project requirements from the client side as well, who could understand the data side from the bank, as well as the development side from the software side. So that's the reason they wanted somebody who could get into a techno-functional role. And I was presented with the opportunity, and I think tried to deliver my best. And that's how I started working more on the side of like data visualization, data analysis, and a little bit of machine learning. I had not done much then, so a little bit of machine learning modeling as well. And that's how I realized that I am liking this work more than what I was doing before. And that's how I thought that I would get into the field of data exploration.
Yeah, and how did your Indian experience, right? Like even your experience or exposure in the fintech world or as a SWE in general,
Mhm.
did that play a role in your EB1A journey, or was that like just a closed chapter and you moved on?
No, definitely. Actually, whatever work I've done in India actually played a pivotal role for preparing the application and my profile for EB1. So, because as you mentioned, that I'm a recent graduate in the US, but I have a lot of experience back in India, and that is where I gained on my experience, and that's where I developed my profile from. So that has been a very important aspect, actually. Um, I actually I focused also on the US experience, uh, but the foundation was, of course, the work I did in India.
I see. Another very question, another very frequent question that I get is, um, should you move to the US or move abroad or go for higher studies after a bit of experience, or should you do it like immediately after your bachelor's, right? And we both are in two different sides of the spectrum, because I did not have any experience. I just jumped into that boat, but you got a bunch of experience and then jumped into that boat, right? So I have very different perspective to offer. My perspective is more like, hey, fresh off the boat, like you have a different mindset, a little more risk appetite is what you will carry, so it is good to like jump into the master's journey immediately after your bachelor's.
Mhm.
But then what perspective do you have to that question?
I don't want to sound biased, but I feel that given the current market situation, the job market situation, I feel that the companies are also looking at people who are a little experienced, who do understand the software development life cycle end to end, and they're not very keen in putting in a lot of effort right now because of the market being so tough. So they do expect some kind of prior experience that a candidate can bring. That's what I feel from current, like last couple of years, I would say. Uh, but of course, if one is good enough, then they do not need any experience and they can directly come for masters. That is also an option. But this, I feel, makes you a little more prepared for the job market here. I feel that, and yeah. So
So when you were going through your interviews, right, did you kind of feel like all that, did you feel like the interview questions were based off of those Indian experience, talking points? And did you feel like the Indian experience actually helped you perform better in those interviews compared to other people who might have been taking those interviews as well?
they were not very. They actually wanted to know what used to work on, but it's not that they would be questioning a lot about it, but they would want to know what kind of a project I did and can I handle such a project again here. So that is something the interviewer was keen on. And one thing I would like to highlight is that if you have experience before masters, then their chances of getting resume picked is a little higher, I would say. But of course, you cannot quote me on this, but I feel that that's what I saw, that if you have some solid experience to show in the interview, so then it gives you a little better probability of being picked for interview, because these days getting a call for interview is itself very difficult, because being an immigrant, you have to apply for like 300 400 jobs and then you get one call, so it's very difficult. And I've just gone through that process, so I understand that it's very difficult process. So I feel that if you have some experience, that will of course be an add-on, it will not be a negative, so that will be an add-on.
So for every immigrant, when they come, there's obviously all these masters related stuff that they need to do. Along with that, they'll probably have borrowed money, and there's that thing also like looming in the back of the mind. And in addition to that, there's this thing of the job search, plus there's this additional thing of how to solve the whole immigration problem, like the
Yes.
immigration drama and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So and everyone's story is different. Some people get picked up in like the initial H1B lottery. Some people don't until like 3 years also, and then they have to figure out band-aid solutions and stuff.
Yeah.
So what has your journey been like, right? Like, so what is your motivation to even go for the EB1A green card? Some people have the motivation of, hey, my kids are aging out. Some people are like, no, I'm not getting the H1B, and to hell with this drama, I'm going to go directly for the EB1. Some people are like, I have an H1B, but I can't renew it further because my employer didn't file it till 6 years and stuff.
Right.
So what is your why did you even choose to do this?
Yeah, I have a very different motivation. So because I came for, as I was saying, I came for masters a little late. Generally, people come fresh out of their undergrad school, or they would like hardly have 1 or 2 years of experience. I have like a decade long of experience back in India, and then somehow I decided to do masters, and then I'm here. And when I was in my school, in my postgrad school, so I used to listen about these immigrant stories that even if you get a job, there's always this lingering visa situation which will always be there. So I was wondering, though, there's one stress that you have to find a job as an immigrant, and there's another stress that you have to maintain your visa status. So I used to think that there has to be a way out, and that's the reason I was just trying to understand what kind of criteria that a candidate can apply for EB1, 2, 3, or 4, and how does it work. And so that's what I was thinking, and that's how I would just do a regular Google search. I did not even used to talk about this to anybody because I thought that maybe there's no solution. That's the reason everybody is not applying for it. And once I had made up my mind that I will try this way out after I get a job. And that's how, as soon as I started my job last year, I started looking up for all these options. And incidentally, I found your LinkedIn profile and your YouTube video. And that's how I got interested in it, and that's how I connected with you. And then I did an evaluation of my profile, and then I started. So I wanted to actually end both the uncertainties, job uncertainty and visa uncertainty. I thought at least one can be assured, and that's how I got into this.
I see. And when you decided to jump into it, right? Like, so in your mind, obviously a lot of our clients, they end up thinking that, they end up thinking that they are rolling the dice, meaning if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But we don't operate like that. We are like, we only take in people where we have a high degree of confidence and stuff like that, right? So can you walk me through like your mental state when you are jumping into it, right? Like, did you jump into it with confidence that, okay, yeah, ye to ho jayega? Or you were like, okay, it's just rolling the dice, like, but it's still worth it type of a thing?
No, initially when I was doing my research before I had met you and your team, yeah, like anybody would have like certain amount of doubts. I did have like, is it worth doing? Because it is not very popular route. So that is the reason I felt like, why is not everybody doing it? But I can understand why it is not everybody doing it now after a year.
I remember one of the first conversations that we had, and you are literally like, why am I not seeing every Indian doing this?
Yeah, because why is everybody not doing it? But now I understand after this journey that why everybody it is.
I wanna ask you now, why isn't everyone doing it? What do you think? Why isn't everyone doing it?
It requires a lot of commitment. Aside from our own job, our own personal life, it actually is a full-time job. I would say it requires a lot of commitment from both sides, from you, from your team, as well as from the candidate. So it requires a lot of commitment, and that sometimes can like not work out for everybody. I understand there are so many commitments at home as well. So it is a very difficult, I would say it's a very tiresome and long process. So you have to just keep at it. So that is the reason I think some people might get a little nervous in the beginning. But I do understand that if once we go through the profile evaluation, and if we like deem fit enough to start the process, and then I think somebody should jump into it and do it. Yeah.
How your everyday work life, right? So most people think that the whole EB1 journey that they go through is a separate thing that they have to go through in addition to whatever like career related path they have, which is, it can't be further away from the truth than that, because it is one and the same. The people who are trying to build a totally different profile than like what they actually do in their workplace are actually fabricating a profile, right? Which we don't even think of. Now on that note, I want to ask you this question, Ritambra, is how do you think whatever you are doing in your workplace seamlessly, or at least that domain expertise seamlessly went into your EB1 journey? How was it like organically flowing into it?
Yeah, of course, it was a very organic transition, because I have to build a profile on what I have been doing for all this year, or whatever education I have gained, or whatever I'm doing currently. So everything has to be, there was a proper flow of, and whatever I've done in all this 10 years or whatever career a person has. So that is something which we have to like account for, or create an, or like try to create evidences for. So that is something which we just have to put it on paper, as I would like to say. So it's a very it's not something that we are doing extra, like it's not something that we are trying to get an altogether a new degree or doing a new certification, nothing like that. You, whatever we are doing, we just have to make uh, put it on paper, and create an evidence so that it can be solidified, so that if somebody looks at it, they would know that, okay, this is the profile that person belongs from. So yeah, if simply put, we have to put everything whatever we've done on a paper, and with a proper flow, so that somebody, if somebody reads, he would know what kind of a profile that person is from.
Yeah, the biggest
So
issue I see people kind of the misconception I see in people is that they think that actually they have a lot of work that they've done,
yes.
but pretty much what happens in the industry is that we don't have it solidified on paper. So 20 years later, if someone knocks on your door and asks you, hey, tell me exactly what you did in this period of your time, even if it is like an employer, you will be able to articulate and tell them stuff, but you will have pretty much nothing to show as hard evidence. That is one of the biggest issues that we face
Yeah.
with non-researcher profiles, and 99% of the people we deal with are non-researchers
Right.
anyway, is that they don't have anything on paper, right? So, and
Mm-hmm.
most of the time they end up having this kind of and I'd like to know your perspective on this as well. There's a little bit of imposter syndrome that people go through. It's like they work around people who are uh, as good as them or better than them. Like for example, if you're working with like data related people around you all day long, then you kind of get into a bubble and you end up thinking that you are an average person, right? But if you take a lens that is like outside of that bubble, compare yourself with like pretty much everybody out there in the world or broader, geography, then you start seeing that, hey, actually my group is a much more well performing group, and I am, even if I'm above average in that group, I am still one of the top people in the broader field itself,
Hmm.
right? So did you face, especially because you were so quote unquote new in the US job market, did
Yes.
you face any such imposter syndrome also while you were stepping into the EB1A? Because they clearly say you have to be top of field and stuff, and people generally are like, hey, I'm just a simple data scientist, or I'm just a simple software engineer.
Yeah.
What is so great in the work that I do, etc., etc.?
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
Yeah. So I feel that again, initially you feel all these jitters. So initially, yes, like how am I going to show up what I did? I mean, how is it going to be valuable? How is it going to be proved that it is valuable? So such questions, of course, it came in my mind. But only thing I think as a candidate, we should like sit back in retrospect. Okay, what all have we done? We actually have to sit and think first, that what all have we done. We have to literally, I mean, that's what I did. I actually had to write it down on a piece of paper, that what all have I done, what all projects were I related to, what all skill set I had, and what all did I continue with. So that is something which I feel that and especially your team as well. So with the click up and the tracking all the tasks, that really helped, and actually that was so transparent. So we already knew that, okay, what all have we done, and if there is something which we are missing, then of course we need to work on that while building the profile. So that is something I feel that that is again an initial jitter, as I mentioned, that we do feel, because nobody's thinking about, we are just so busy in our day-to-day life, we don't even remember what we did yesterday. How are we going to remember what we did like 5 years ago or 10 years ago? So it is really tough. So we have to sit and think back, and then put it on paper, and then decide that, okay, if there's a flow to this profile, then of course I can build it up and like make it more valuable. So
Most of our clients, there's two reactions that usually comes up the week that they onboard, because we overwhelm them with like a ton of tickets, right? Like around 60-70 questions.
yeah.
So uh, almost 50% of them get overwhelmed. They are like, what the heck, like there's so many questions that I need to answer, etc., etc. The other, let's say 25% of them get demotivated. The reason is because they, of course, when you go through all those 60-70 questions, majority of the answers to those questions will be like, I don't have this, I don't have this, no, I didn't do anything in this regard. Let's say we ask you about awards or press or things like that. Your natural answer over there will very likely be, no, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have it. So when you're answering more like I don't have it to majority of the questions than not, then you automatically start getting demotivated if you end up thinking that I should have had all this even to make progress in the program. And that's the kind of uh, not frustration, but demotivation that we kind of see in our clients in the first week. And our CSM team now is like very well trained to make them know that, hey, we are not asking you this because you should have it. We are asking you this so that we can use everything that you have, and we want to dig out both from your work experience as well as like everything that you've achieved outside your workplace, as to like what you have, so that we can use that as building blocks and start building on it. Because many times people will have done something in their undergrad or graduate school or whatever it is, however small it is, it can be a good starting point. So you did talk about things that you have done in your India experience, which served as building blocks. Were there any things that you have done either in your undergrad, which was a while ago, but especially in your grad school, right, that fed into this whole thing as a building block?
Actually, yeah. I started this. I got into the research field because of one of my professors, and I was working with in my master's, and that's how I actually I was pretty close on publishing a paper. So I already know how it is, how the research is done, and how it is written, how it is presented. So I was very close to that, and I started working on that, and parallelly, I got in touch with you. So that is something which happened very simultaneously, and so whatever work I've done in my grad school really helped me, especially with the research paper work, and how we are supposed to research and how it is supposed to be written. So that really helped me, and also the conferences that I attended with the help of my school, the exhibitions that I attended with the help of my school, wherever I presented my thesis, those all actually became part of my final petition. So initially I was really surprised. I thought that will not be counted, but when I was going through it, it was part of my petition. So I was really surprised that that also became a valuable part of my application. So it really helped me, whatever I learned in the grad school.
Now if you look back and put yourself in the shoes of, in your own shoes, about a few years ago when you were in grad school, what would have you done more or differently now that you know what it takes to get make all of those things useful for the EB1? What would you have done differently in grad school itself to increase the stuff you can gather?
Yeah, maybe like to get into more of research work will help. More of even if you're not able to publish a paper, which I understand sometimes it gets difficult, but it's very easy to publish a paper from school than from outside, I feel. Because of the professor's help, it's easier. So I feel that if one has a chance, then he should or she should like get into touch with professors and try to get into their research work, try to help them out as well. And maybe then something interesting will catch on, and you can build your own research profile. And secondly, I feel that there's some there are like plethora of activities happening on campus, and even with the campuses, even within the state, all the inter school universities and all of them are happening. So I feel that you should be more out and about and try to participate and try to like showcase your work more. So now that I feel that I took part in one of my exhibitions, I feel like I should have taken part in a couple of more. So maybe that would have helped. So I think that if you have an option and if you have the time, then both research and taking part and showcasing your work will help a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people also end up thinking that, hey, I'm not interested in research. I'm interested in going into the industry. So they use that logic to not at all even use any research opportunities they have in college, right? Like they just are mind blocked into that I don't
Mm.
want to go into research. But it's
Yeah.
not necessary. It's not necessary to look at it as black and white. You can
Yeah.
also look at it as a transition phase, or there is a lot of industry related stuff within research and vice versa as well. So in real world, it's not black and white. It's just this academic environment versus the industry, or PhD versus like job, or academia versus industry, that kind of makes that black and white.
Mm.
um, so yeah, I mean, it kind of is very weird to me when students come up, and 99% of the students have this thing, that, hey, I'm not in research, do I have a chance for EB1? And
Mm.
when I say yes, you can start publishing papers, they are like, isn't that a work of a researcher? I'm
Yeah.
like, why do you even like
Yeah.
box yourself that way?
Yeah. People think researcher means you have to get into the line of PhD or something like
Correct.
that. But that's
Yeah,
not the case. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
and it's better for us, for our career too, if you have a researcher mindset or at least a bent. So it's better even in the job field as well. So yeah.
because you are open to constantly evolving and knowing about like newer things and stuff. Actually, you brought up a good point. That was the next segue that I wanted to make also, is forget about EB1A, right? Like, even if EB1A wasn't a thing that you were pursuing, this whole activity that you did and all the things that you got as a result of it and all that, do you feel like this has an impact on your career? Like, moving forward, are you feeling more confident about your career? Do you feel like you, even if EB1A didn't have happened, you would have been in a better place career wise, a
Yes.
profile wise?
Yes, I definitely feel that during this process, I have actually built my profile better. So, had I been just going on with my journey, which I was going on with my career, so it would have gone at a certain pace. But after this profile development, I feel that it will give me, because it's very recent, but I feel that it will give me a good enough jump and maybe more research opportunities or more job opportunities. On and also it has clearly stated out all my achievements, which was not the case in the previous. If you look at my previous resumes, there are points, but few of them. But right now, it is very well put together, and it's very clearly stated of what all I have already achieved. So I feel that that is a big step in the profile building process. So aside from the EB1, of course, this is I would say a bonus point that happens with this journey.
Yeah, a lot of people also coming to the workplace, right? They are like, hey, recommendation letters and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Again, that depends on your equation with your workplace folks and stuff, right? So what kind of let's say relationships that you maintained at your workplace, did they help you in any way, make it easier get these letters, or make it easier, like what was the contribution of the workplace in this entire effort? I know your petition was a self petition, but still there are a couple of criteria that kind of get fed from the workplace anyway. So
Yeah, so letter of recommendation, actually it's all from workplace and one from my professor. So yes, building relationship is it's very basic, I would say. Like, everybody knows you have to network now, so it's something which is very key to building a profile. So yeah, building a better relationship at workplace definitely helped me even go back a couple of years and get good recommendation letters from my previous bosses or managers or superiors. So that really helped. So I understand that keeping in touch with everybody after a couple of years, it gets difficult. But if you have had good working relationship, or if you have had good project being delivered, then I feel that nobody would be like hesitant in giving you a good letter. So
Mhm.
that is something which helped. And yeah, so yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let's move to the darker side, right? uh, in your entire journey, what do you think was the hardest part, the most difficult thing, or something that gave you a lot of sleepless nights where you actually had to think a lot, use a lot of time to crack that nut in your EB1A pursuit? There has to be something.
Yeah. So actually, I feel that you guys took care of the press criteria pretty well. So that is something which was a relief. So I'm just now in retrospect, if I think that had I been able to do that on my own, it is really difficult, I feel. So the standard process which you have created there was really helpful. And was something which was very difficult. I feel that getting into the field of like getting noticed by all the journals so that they'll give you review work is something which took time for me. And because of the criteria of that, you have to judge and review others work for like certain amount. So that is something was that was a little difficult in the beginning, because like wherever I have published the paper in the beginning, I had like published 2 or 3 papers, so I only know only those 2 or 3 journals. But getting everybody to know that, yeah, I am in the field of reviewing, so putting yourself out there, that was a little difficult. That was a
Yeah.
very time taking process, I would say. And
And oftentimes it's a chicken and egg problem, right? Because if you are not well known, you
yes,
won't get opportunities. And
yes,
for you to be well known, you should have already had opportunities. So
opportunity.
it's
Yeah,
that, how do you come out of that vicious loop?
right,
And
right.
that happens for all the other things also, like awards and memberships and stuff like that.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Just going back, right, like a little bit to this whole concept of culture shift. I'm sure, moving from your hometown to Bangalore itself was like a reasonable culture shift. But then more so, moving from India to the US is a culture shift of its own. And a lot of people struggle with that, along with having to do many other things as well, right? Uh, it could be like family support or many other things that we end up having in India, which immediately gets cut when you move here. uh, what kind of culture shift did you face, and how did you overcome that? Like, was everything new and frustrating and overwhelming for you, or how did you first take your first few weeks?
Yeah, of course, everything was new. I actually get this question even amongst our friends when we discuss that about the culture thing. Uh, when I had planned to come here, I was already prepared that everything is going to be new. So I would say that I was a little prepared in that sense. That you cannot expect everywhere to be like as comfortable as your home. So that is something which I was prepared, and I uh, something which was a little, I would say, tiring was like you are working and you're researching as well as you're doing a part-time job. And so that is something which you're juggling so many roles. So that is something which can get very tiring at times. So but then it was like you have to do it, kind of a mindset. You have to become a little resilient, I would say. And after a while, I would say initially it is everything comes as a shock, and after a while then you start enjoying. Have a group of friends, so you know everybody, so you try to learn the new culture. So after a while it gets comfortable. um, so yeah, I think if one is a little prepared, then and if you start and jump into it, it'll be fine. So yeah.
Yeah. And even the workplace stuff, right? Like I think the corporate, I didn't work too much in India. Everything was like limited to internships and all that, but you get very limited exposure in internship, especially back then, like 10 years ago. There were limited internships, and even the interns were also not treated kind of at par with the full-time people. uh, but from a workplace standpoint, do you see any difference in the working culture in India versus the working culture here? uh, there are many people, especially in this whole world of influencers these days. They are like, nothing, you can work there for like a couple of years, but then at the end it's the same everywhere, blah blah blah. I personally don't think it's the same everywhere. There's quite a bit of kind of focused work kind of culture. I mean, that's coming up in India as well, to a large degree, especially in main Silicon Valleys of India, like Bangalore and all that. uh, but what workplace difference did you see, uh, here versus in India?
Yeah, there is a lot of workplace difference, I would say, because I've worked a lot there. Even there, I had amazing team and my amazing superiors, but there the delivery or the output is expected from a team. Here, I felt whatever experience I have, the output is expected from the individual. So you yourself have to be pretty capable to like you have to display that you are fit enough for that project or for the team, and you have to individually contribute. That is something a little different from there you have to contribute as a group. In India, in US, I feel that you have to contribute individually too. So that is a big workplace culture change that I would say that I experienced. And it was good, of course. You learn to work in a team as well. That back in India, that is very good. And here you have to develop your own skill sets. That is good here too. So that's something which is very different in both the
Yeah.
places.
Coming to which, like, when we have these success spotlight calls in Smart Green Card, where we invite these successful people to interact with the rest of the members who are going through the journey in Smart Green Card, every time we have an approval within the program, I'm sure most of those success story calls that you were on, asking questions to folks, they were, or at least listening to their stories, they were maybe 99% of the times like more experienced than you, or senior to you in the workplace and all that. Did that overwhelm you? Did that cause you to feel like, this is probably only possible for them, like I still have doubts about myself, like, and how did those sessions even help you at the end of the day?
Those sessions were actually helpful, because if you see how the person, first of all, those sessions were very helpful because there was different kind of candidates who were going through it. So it's not like just one standard cookie cutter thing that only that person can do it. It's not that. So there were different profiles. So that was something which is very reassuring, that okay, there are different profiles, so of course my profile is a little different maybe, so then even I can do it. So that was something motivating, I would say. And initially initially I was like, I okay, I don't want to be sounding like condescending or something, but I had done my research before, and once I started talking to you guys, I was pretty sure that I have to do it. So I was pretty at it, and I was very committed to this process, and your team as well was very committed to this process. So that's the reason I was like, once I got into it, so there was no looking back. So that's how my mindset works. But of course I understand that people can get a little jittery and nervous, and it's very tiresome process, so I can understand that. But you have to just, maybe even if something happens in between, and if you have to take a little while, take a little break even for a month or so, you have to get back into it and get it done. I mean, you have to complete it.
Yeah, that's the weird part, right? Because the more you let it drag, the more you are defeating your own purpose, because the whole reason you're doing all of this is to get done with it ASAP. And then
Exactly.
if you are probably not into it as much, and then you are letting it drag for like 2 or 3 years, then you're pretty much making it kind of go like, okay, what's the use if you do it or not, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time when we go through these success story calls, people get this temptation to think that, hey, this profile is not like mine. That profile got it because they are that type, right? But then having 50 plus such calls, no two profiles are the same, like
Exactly.
never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And when the approved person, whoever is like watching those or people who watch those calls while they're not filed yet, after they get approved, when they come on those calls, they'll be a different profile for other people as well. So
Yes.
these are all, I mean, there are so many, there are probably at least 100 kind of micro gotcha kind of situations that I can name. And I think it's just the confusion in the process, because you can spend years and years learning about EB1A, and you can feel like you know a lot, but then that doesn't get you anywhere, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's getting it done. And even now, when we go through all our client journeys, each client's story is unique, and their profile journey is unique, their opportunities are unique, their equation in their workplace is also unique, meaning some can get recommendation letters easily, some cannot. So although we know 60 to 75% like how the journey should go, and we set up a very repeatable framework, process and stuff, so that it's predictable. What has worked for majority of the other people who got approved is what we apply to like the future people as well. But then there's always the 25, 30, 35% of the activity which we will not know ourselves also when you start. It's figuring out along the way. And sometimes like people end up getting this misconception that, hey, this is like a printing press type thing where everything should have been figured out, and then they start getting jittery on that. The clients that understand it actually go through the journey well and get approved. But then the ones that don't understand the nuances, they are like, okay, I paid you money, it's your job to get me a green card. That type of mentality simply doesn't work, because it makes the working of our team also super difficult at that point. So Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your team was pretty dedicated, I would say, and they, because even as I was saying before, talking to you and your team, I had already done my research. I already know what criteria are there. What can I, what I already have, what work I need to do in certain criteria. I already knew that, but then when you start doing it, it's a very long process. So getting everything out there on a tracker and trying to understand, doing it by task or making modules of it, that really helped. So I feel that that was a very helpful process, because if doing it on your own or getting it on your own, you might get lose sight of it, because there are 10 things you have to do, and all of them to be done parallelly. So I feel that your team was really helpful in communicating and like understanding and keeping the progress, and where the work is required, that was highlighted. So that was really helpful.
So what do you think? Let's say, I think it took you 10 months or so, right? Eight
Yes.
months, 10 months,
Yes.
something like
Yeah.
that.
10
Yeah.
months.
So let's say you are talking to a Ritambra somewhere 10 months back, right? Like 10 months behind you at this point. What would you tell them? Right? Like they are also doing their research. They are also going through their own thing. Forget about smart green card. Like whether they join smart green card or not, that's not the agenda I have here. The agenda is, what will you tell them to make them feel a little more confident that they also can do it?
They should actually think about, like, they should have a clear picture of what they want from where they are. If you want to be here, and if you are trying to minimize the risk of visa issues and all, then that is something that you'll have to find that out, that that is something which you want. So once you are certain about that, then you will have to do your own research. Then you will have to find out what criteria you fit into. And if you think that there is some other way which is even better, even faster or quicker, then yeah, let us know as well. So so I feel that one should know what you want, and then you should be prepared to get into and put in all the efforts that is required by this commitment.
Yeah. um, and also they have to have a little bit of persistence to see it through, because it's very easy, you'll get hundreds of opportunities in the middle where you just want to tap out of the of
Yeah.
the of the game.
Yeah. I tell you, like, it's like as if you're. It's not that you're doing something different, but you are working at your office, then you are at home, then you're doing all your home chores. But then this is again kind of a full-time job, I would say. That
Yeah.
this is something that you're documenting. Okay, what did you did today? What did you do 2 years ago? What did you do 10 years ago? That's something you're documenting. So this is a full-time job. It requires a lot of effort and a lot of commitment.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm sure people are doing it. So yes.
Yeah. Ritambra, thank you so much for your time. I think this was like really motivational and encouraging for a lot of folks as well. Our goal is mainly to make sure that people kind of can transparently see other people going through this journey of different walks in life, different professionals succeeding as well. So I think we covered pretty much everything that we would want to in this podcast episode. I definitely love to see all the progress that you do further in your career as well, and we my team and I are looking forward to being part of that as well. So thank you so much, and
Thank you.
good luck for everything that you have in store. Really excited for it.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I really had a great time working with you guys, and today as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.